So today we are beginning a new topic. Yesterday we just concluded, keep quiet please. Yesterday we just concluded on what is called the education reforms of 1977, and specifically our interest was on the success and the failures of these education reforms. So today we are beginning what is called Principles for Education Development. Principles for Education Development. That is a new topic that we are covering. Okay, these principles are quite relevant. In fact, they call them Principles for Education Development in Zambia. Now, what we should know is that they do not just apply to the Zambian education system. They may be used even in other countries. Like we always say that we can't say that our country is not an island, and hence even the decision makers or policy makers do not just wake up and say these are the things that are going to be happening in the education system. They are exposed to other systems of education. So basically, the technocrats to come up with these principles could have looked at other systems of education in other countries, and then they borrow what they could and integrate them into our education system. So it is called Principles for Education Development in Zambia. Principles for Education Development in Zambia. Okay, of course, there are 7 principles that we'll be able to pay attention to. Number 1, we'll look at liberalization. Then second, we look at decentralization. Third, we look at equality. Then fourth, we look at equity. Then fifth, we'll look at accountability. Then sixth, we'll look at partnership. Then seventh, we look at quality. Okay, these are the 7 principles for education development. Ordinarily, you'd be expected to know all of them, and they will ask you they may ask you on all these principles. At times, if it is a long question, they may ask you to write on 4, or 5. If it is a short question, they may ask you to write on 2. If it is in multiple choice questions, they'll give you a statement, and then you'll be expected to explain, or probably be expected to cite which principle applies to that particular statement they have given you. Okay. Is that clear? All right. Again, you'll be expected to demonstrate how each of these principles contributes to education development. Probably at times you may be expected to see how, in your capacity or in your position as a teacher, you can use these principles of education development for the purpose of bringing progress towards the education system. Okay. So for now, begin with the first one, which is liberalization. Okay. Can you try to think what the implication of liberalization is? Anyone with the understanding of what this particular concept imply? What is liberalization? Okay, what is your name, sir? Speak loudly.
Woody.
Who?
Woody.
Gordon, yes.
I think it does something.
Speak loudly, I want them to hear. You're not just speaking to me.
I think it has something to do with freedom. Perspective.
Okay. It says it has something to do with freedom. Okay. Are you able to speak loudly, my friend? Yes? Speak loudly.
Liberalization is the process of when the government uses its control.
Speak loudly. Can you? It is the loosening of government controls. Okay. What do others say? Any other? Henry? Where is Henry? Okay. So the concept of liberalization comes from this word, liberty. Which implies what he said. What did he say? Freedom. Okay. Liberty, freedom, and democracy. They move what? They move together. When you have liberty, you expect freedom. You also expect what? Democracy. Okay. These principles, in fact, these principles of education were introduced to the Zambian education system in 1991. Those of you who have the Zambian history, what happened in 1991? Those what? Yes? Chiruba came in power. Yes? Okay, the government changed. Yes? Okay, the government changed from one-party state to multi-party politics. Now, before changing from one-party state to multi-party politics, even the education system was highly controlled by the state. But liberalization meant individuals with resources, is it organizations such as non-governmental organizations and religious bodies were given freedom to establish and manage their own schools. Okay. But they were required to adhere to the guidelines provided by the Ministry of Education. So in short, the education system was liberalized. Freedom was given to individuals, non-governmental organizations, and religious bodies to establish, manage, and control the education system in line with the guidelines provided by the Ministry of Education. What does this tell you about the state of education now in our country? It tells you that you are, once you graduate with the ability to understand how the education system operates, you have the right to establish your own school. Okay. It gave the freedom and rights to individuals to establish their own schools, not only just to be looking for employment from the government, isn't it? As a result of liberalization, we've seen increase in terms of access to education because there was an option for people to go to what? To private schools. Which was guaranteed through the principles of education development. Okay. Liberalization at the same time gives an opportunity to parents to have an alternative of where to take their children to access education. Okay, meaning that people do not just have one particular choice, which is public schools, but you have competition being introduced in the education sector. And people can choose the quality of education which their children should have, and not limited to only public schools. So that is what liberalization has done. In terms of its contribution to education development, who can give us of what importance is liberalization? What has it brought in terms of contributing to our education system? Okay, speak loudly.
I think it helps the country in terms of spreading education and also expanding education.
It helps the country to expand the education system. Is that a hand up? Okay, I saw one behind there. Speak loudly.
Also relieves the government from pressure.
Okay, it relieves the government from pressure because the government realizes they can't be able to provide education to everyone. Okay, yes?
It also boosts the economy of the country
How?
because of the private schools.
Okay, it says it boosts the economy because private schools will be on board. Okay, yes, we had the hand up.
I think it has also made a lot of people like come up with an idea coming on private schools.
It has made a lot of people to come up with the ideas of establishing private schools. Okay, meaning even you on your part as teachers, currently they are saying how many teachers will be recruited? 30,000. But what are the statistics in terms of the teachers who have graduated? Okay, unverified information says about 40,000 teachers have been graduated, waiting to be posted. So they are recruiting about 30,000 and 10,000 will remain, isn't it? Now, among those 30,000, you may find that maybe 12,000 are already working with what? The private sector, isn't it? And if they are recruited by government, it means that 12,000 spaces will be vacant in the private sector, isn't it? And it will give an opportunity to the other 10,000 who are going to remain to be recruited by the private sector. You see the implication? So the private sector gives an opportunity. It gives an opportunity for teachers to get employed and become productive in society. Okay. So as a result of liberalization, private schools employ teachers who may not have been employed by what? By the government. Okay. Probably even within our communities, we have seen even graduates from here who are what? Who are directors. Okay. For those of you who are doing entrepreneurship, that is an aspect that you can tap in. When you assess your community in terms of educational needs, you can be able to put up a school, isn't it? And you become the boss. You start employing. All right. That is on liberalization. Do you have any questions arising from that? Yes, speak loudly. Your name?
My name is Elvis.
Elvis.
Yes.
Okay, yes, Elvis.
So from what you have said so far, I believe that during our regime, when you say during our government, there was more private schools.
Okay. That's a good question. It says, does it mean that during counter times There were no private schools. Who can answer that question? Yes, what is your take?
According to what that statement is saying, it shows that the government is running.
Okay.
The schools were managed by the government. That's why they that liberalization so that they could allow liberalization.
All right. If you remember, we are just from looking at 1966 education policy, in which one of the clauses in that act, that was 1966 Education Act. One of the clauses was the fourth part dealt with what? Establishment of private schools, isn't it? Okay. On paper, so you can say on paper, that clause was there. Okay? But in terms of implementation, it was quite difficult for an individual to come up with a private school. Okay? If you talk, do you have is our grandfather around? I'm asking him. If you talk to him nicely, he's going to tell you that things were so hard. Even buying a Maya TV, people would come to investigate you. Okay. Now what more if you open a school? You see how complicated things were. Okay. It was like having resources was a preserve of the elite only. Okay. There was no way an ordinary person within the community would come up with a school. But this time you are guaranteed. Okay. Even you, this time you go to your community, you just assess, you find the building, you do the registration, you can open your own school. You even start employing graduates from here. Okay. So that is how it was. Okay, any other question? Yes, madam. Your name?
Karen.
Who?
Karen.
Karen. Yes, what is your take?
So in terms of liberalization, did it just talk about having private schools, or did it at some point talk about the curriculum, since the government is controlling education?
Okay. Liberalization, she's trying to say, does it mean that even the curriculum could have been authoritarian in nature? Does it mean that liberalization also talked about the curriculum being liberalized, isn't it? Okay, fine. Of course, with the coming of this particular principle, it meant that even the shaping of the minds for the learners, they're supposed to tap into this particular principle. Okay, it means that the education system the curriculum was designed to such a way that the learners' minds should be shaped to have the values reflecting liberty, reflecting freedom, and democratic principles. Okay. All right. Any other? Yes?
What was the main purpose of liberalization?
Okay, what was the main purpose of liberalization? Your question? All right. Okay, fine. Private schools, like he said, missionary schools were in place. Okay? As we know, the Catholics and other churches, have been actively involved in providing education way back before independence, isn't it? But some of these schools, some of those schools, they were handed over to the government. Okay, despite still, is it the sisters or fathers still managing them, isn't it? So private schools were there, okay. I just forgot your question. What was the agenda? Okay, the agenda. The agenda, as we said, all these principles that we're looking at, they were meant to ensure that our education system progresses. Okay? Because our education system was like backward. So every principle that we are going to look at, they were all meant to see how best our education system can be developed. Okay? And they had to look at, like I said, keep quiet please. Like I said, we can't say that us as Zambians were so intelligent that we just woke up one day and say, can we have liberalization in our education system? Okay. It was as a result of exposure, okay, to what was prevailing in other countries where the education system has advanced. And they had to see that one of the principles which those countries are using is the concept of what? Liberalization. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.